Today on CRED, we're going to give you the first driving review of a 2025 Jeep Wrangler. Well, you guys, we are in a 2025. Ryan is in the passenger seat. You can now see him, but he will be holding a camera for parts of this video. You know, we talked about the color, right? We talked about the new 41, the color, the two-door, the build plans, all the crazy stuff we have planned for this. But really the biggest thing that we wanted to do is kind of give you our first driving impressions. Ryan, we've got exactly 197 miles on this Jeep, meaning...
We've already driven it.
We've driven it a little bit, not really too much. And yeah, it's a two-door, it's a 2-liter turbo, it's a brand new 2025. And I think in reality, what's going to be kind of neat is just the fact that we'll be able to take this thing out for a cruise and tell you how it performs both city, more rural, and then maybe we'll get on the highway and cruise a little bit with it. The neat thing is that I don't think there's anyone else on the internet with a 2025 Wrangler driving review. From what we can tell, this is pretty much the first one.
It's not a four-door, but...
It's not a four-door, it's not a Rubicon, it's not a 392. It's a 2-liter turbo with basically everything base.
Yeah.
The base top, the base windows, base soft top on there, so you're going to see the reflection coming through all the windows here. But yeah, let's give you a review of it. So we're cruising down, we're cruising around right now, right guys? We're going about 40 miles an hour, 35, 40 miles an hour, depending on where we're going. And this thing is comfortable.
Yeah, it's very smooth.
Now it's on street tires. It's on Bridgestone Dueler HTs or ATs, something like that. It is a smooth, comfortable ride. It's interesting because Ryan and I were probably going to make a separate video just talking about, you know, lift kits, modifying what it does, the pros and cons of it. But it is so refreshing to hop in after you've driven a lifted, modified, all tuned up Jeep to just get in a stock one.
Yeah.
There's something about, and it has to, once again, it has to do with stock tires, stock suspension, all that stuff. But my goodness, for a Jeep owner, this thing is smooth. Yeah. It is controlled, it's comfortable, it rides nicely, it's not bone jarring. I was averaging like 26 or 27 miles per gallon the other day on a little two-door like this. And like I said, from a Jeep owner, this is considered a smooth ride. From like a regular SUV, if you have like independent front, you're driving like one of those, like a GMC Acadia or like a Ford Escape, it's probably going to be a little bit, oh, I have to correct the wheel a little bit.
Yeah.
But for a stock,
you're not used to it.
For a stock Jeep, oh my goodness. So first and foremost, the ride quality, very smooth. They've got it dialed in well on these new Jeeps. And it's actually, Ryan, it's quiet in here too. Like even with the base top.
Yeah, you know, when I first got my 24 and it was in the other top, the 12.
Yeah.
This seems a lot less windy.
Really?
Yeah.
Which is surprising because the twill is a thicker material. So normally that changes it up a little bit, makes the thicker material, you would think you would get a little bit more noise reduction.
Yeah.
Maybe, Ryan, this has power windows and power locks. They may put more sound deadening in the doors too.
That's true.
Like in the doors, because these felt a little bit more solid, and you also got more mechanisms in there compared to yours, so it could buffet a little bit of the sound through the doors.
Yeah.
That was one of your big things you said with the cloth dash as well. I think that absorbs a little bit of that sound. And then with the 24s, they also did tell us they added more sound deadening in the A pillars and the B pillars. And these have curtain airbags, which that's more material up here. Just more things to absorb noise. So first and foremost, the ride is smooth. It's comfortable. The 2-liter turbo with the 345 gears. You can actually hear the turbo a little bit. You hear that?
Yeah, you love that little hiss.
Little blow-off valve. Someone's been telling us to put an aftermarket blow-off valve on this so you'd hear the tsh. We ought to do one to yours too.
Yeah.
But smooth ride, quiet ride. We're going 45 through the countrysides here of Pennsylvania.
It's a little windy today.
It is. We're running about 63 degrees outside, and it's smooth, it's comfortable, it's relaxing. As far as the ride quality, right? Yeah. The ride quality, it's there. Now, you take this thing off-road in stock height. Ryan, cue your Jeep wheeling in stock height. Rub it on everything. That's the sacrifice you make for a lift kit, for wheels and tires. The ride quality will obviously stiffen up a little bit. It will be a little different, but you're going to be better off-road. So this is the driving impression for someone that's shopping for a 2025 Jeep Wrangler. It's maybe going, hey Matt, hey Ryan, I'm a first-time Jeep owner. You know, am I going to enjoy this ride? I don't plan on lifting it, or maybe you do, but will I enjoy this right out of the gate, right out of the box? If you're coming from a car, from a normal car, it's going to be different. It'll be different for you. You're going to learn how to maneuver, learn that you have a little bit more steering play. This is a solid front axle. It's going to change it up a little bit for you. But would I feel comfortable throwing my wife, who's only driven, independent front suspension, Ford Focus, she has a Grand Cherokee L. I'd feel comfortable with her driving this. I don't think that this is something that a first-time owner of a Jeep would get in and be like, this thing's all over the road. It drives horribly.
Yeah.
It's really stiff. I can't imagine doing this every day. No, it's smooth. It's comfortable. It's quiet. I can hear myself very crisp in here. What about you?
No, it feels good. I remember I drove it home from the dealership, right?
Yeah.
I drove it home, and I'm just used to being in my two-door lifted with wheels, tires, all that stuff, so this just felt like a completely different ride quality. But yeah, no, it's smooth, and you said you're getting 25?
Let me reset it, yeah. 25.5 average. Yeah, and that's been pretty much since we got back.
Yeah.
So you're pulling decent fuel economy out of it. You're getting a smooth ride. I think that's a lot of people that might be viewing this are coming from that aspect of, I've never owned a Jeep. Like, I'm not sure what to expect here. And I think there's a common misconception that in old Jeeps and the YJs and the TJs, they didn't ride as smooth, right? You had the YJs with leaf springs all around, which is a very firm ride. And then the TJs started with coil springs, but still much more firm than this. If you hop into a sport like this, you're going to, I'm enjoying the ride quality, but you're going to enjoy the ride quality. I don't think, it's not too soft, it's not too firm. I feel like I'm planted enough too. I don't feel like I'm all over the road. And then another thing I wanted to address is the turning radius with this. The turning radius on a 2-door and even a 4-door, it's insane. I got into it was a GMC Yukon the other week and tried to turn around with it. You could barely, watch Ryan, here, I'll turn around right here. You see it on the GoPro. Watch this. If I just okay, I want to turn around right here. I'm not even back out in the road here.
Yeah, we're just the spin.
But either way, the turning radius is fantastic on a 2-door especially. That's one thing I miss. I've had 2-doors, I've had 4-doors, I've had all that stuff. The 2-door turning radius, it's just like nothing you've ever seen. I don't think many vehicles can really compare. Maybe a Bronco, a 2-door Bronco, but the turning radius is so tight, and that's what makes it feel more nimble in this. But it just feels like we're in more of a nimble vehicle here as we roll around. So let's maybe pick up the speed a little bit. We're going to go...
Give us some pep.
Not going to fly by these folks walking. We'll wait for a second here to give her the beans. It's got the pep.
Yeah.
And not as much as yours. You have 456 gears, but we might have to one-up you when we do the build on this and do 488s.
That's
and
what
make this thing
I was going to say.
Absolutely fly.
The night and day difference between the gear ratio, I'm really feeling it now.
Yeah. When you're in this, you feel the response, too. Yours has a pedal controller, a throttle response. Either way, it adjusts the pedal responsiveness on it. But you have that and a 456 gear, you're flying. I can feel that already, pushing on this one. It takes, a second for the computer to be go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but the other thing, I just slowed down. That car was turning back there. The brakes on a stock Jeep are so responsive. Mm-hmm. They're massive. They're pretty big brakes on here. We're running, these are 16s or 17s from the stock, the sport wheels. It's a good size brake on here to really make you stop and be able to slow down quickly. Even my Jeep on 40s on stock brakes on a Rubicon axle, it'll slow down pretty well. So that's one thing, that the brakes are almost overbuilt on these sports compared to what they need. They got a lot of braking force. So if you're nervous about that, it's not bad. If you're nervous, you want to make a reaction, you want to slow down quickly, 2025 seems to have done that pretty well. We're cruising. Right now we're 45 and really, really nice. So let's get on the highway. We're going to get on the highway here and pump it up a little bit. See how that feels on there with the wind noise, with the swaying, because it is a little windy today. We got a breeze. We got a pretty good breeze going. And just kind of see how that is. But yeah, feel those brakes, Ryan? We can slow down quickly. We can make maneuvers quickly. And that's what I like about a stock Jeep, is that you can... It just feels that nimbleness is there. That, I don't know if that's even a word, nimbleness. All right, let's get on her a little bit.
Do you want to mention, you mentioned something to me about if you do buy a new Jeep or a new vehicle that has low mileage and opening up the RPMs, you mentioned
I just did. Yeah, so when you buy a brand new Jeep, normally there's a break-in procedure. A lot of people actually change their oil at 500 miles with more of a performance engine. But the best thing you can do to a new engine is kind of roll through those RPM ranges and do them at some period of time. So what I mean by that is, say I'm going 60 miles an hour here, I'm cruising at 1800 RPM. If you're doing that for about a half hour, that's a good way to let your engine kind of break in at different RPMs. So you're letting it break in at the RPMs at going at about 1800, do that for 30 minutes, and then maybe you pop off the highway and we cruise through town. So we're going up a little bit in the RPM, and then we're idling and we're going through that range of motion. What that does is give it more of a way to ease in the engine and give it more time for that oil to heat up, let it run through its paces, instead of just taking it out and like hammering it down the first. Like if you're just getting it home and you're cruising it to work where you're just letting it fire up for 5 minutes, you're hammering on it and then you're shutting it off. This runs it through its range of RPMs and lets that engine kind of settle into place. And with a more of a performance engine or a turbocharged engine, that's important too. So I think it's kind of crucial. Like within the first, you're not within 50 miles, you're not like hammering down RPM 6,000 really hard shifts. It's not good. I mean, the engines can take it, but you're going to keep this thing for a while, so you may as well treat it right. We're going to slow down and watch real quick.
The brakes are
really good. Yeah. It's not loud. It's quiet too. The exhaust is all stock. Everything is kind of there. I mean, what else can we talk about? What do people want to hear when they're like, should I buy a 2025 Wrangler? I mean, you have those
two-door as well.
Yeah,
so
it's a two-door.
I mean, someone that might have a four-door, they're going to experience probably a little bit different, but
when the ride's actually, arguably the ride's smoother in a four-door stock Jeep because you have a longer wheelbase. There's a longer time for your axles to adjust from what you're hitting. So like on this, if we hit a pothole, pretty much instantaneously our front wheel's going to hit it and then our back wheel.
Yeah.
The four-door has more time to react to it.
Yeah.
And a little bit longer of a wheelbase too to absorb that. The Gladiator's even better on the road too. That's even smoother because it's such a long wheelbase. But what would a Jeep owner be asking? Say you owned an older Jeep, or maybe you owned a JK. This is probably 10 times smoother than a JK. The biggest thing on this, I would say that's really helping this ride quality is the tire, being how more of an all-terrain street tire, and the load range. I've seen so many people completely destroy the ride quality of their Jeep by going to too heavy of a load range. And what that means is load ranges are done A through Z, so A, B, C, D, E, F. And A load range is the lightest type of vehicle that can go on there. So a load range A might be like a 500 pound per tire, very light. Most Jeeps are a load range C. So they're a load range C. My dad's Jeep is Extreme Recon, all that stuff. It can handle the weight of the Jeep, but the sidewalls are softer, so they can't hold like a ton of weight like a diesel truck. Some off-road tires are in a load range E, as in Echo.
Yeah.
And it's too heavy. It's too heavy duty for the weight of the Jeep. You know what I mean? Like, even if you lower it down to like 25 PSI, when you hit a pothole, those sidewalls don't bulge. They don't absorb any of it. So you're only relying on your suspension, your shocks. Whereas this Jeep, you're getting that cushion from the tires too. Yeah. So that's a big thing. If you guys are wondering, why does my Jeep ride so bad? Check the load range. Check your tires. I've said this before. I ran a set of Nittos with load range E. It was the firmest ride I've ever had. You'd hit a pothole and it was bone jarring because the tire couldn't absorb any of the road.
Right.
So very crucial there. That's a little pro tip if you guys are wondering, why doesn't my Jeep ride that well, or how can I get it to ride better? Make sure the proper load range is there on it. Someone that has a Jeep, you're used to like making those little corrections, right, on your steering wheel all the time as you're driving. It's just nothing. It's just driving. And that's hard to do on a solid front axle vehicle. Like, this is an independent front suspension. This is a solid front axle with a tie rod and a drag link. It's harder to get it smoother like that. But now we're going to cruise it up here. We're going to try and get it to like, in the 60s, 70s. Do, of course, what the speed limit says we can, and see what this does. And even here, like this merging, I'm always doing this to go up to a couple different places. This is a bumpy merge area, and it's nothing crazy.
Yeah, and the engine too. It just has some pep to it, man. It's just, that turbo is awesome.
Everyone always had the 4 cylinders are awful because the old 4 cylinders, I had them, they made no power. I mean, if I had 33s or 35s on my TJs, I was like downshifting into third right now, whining it out just to make power. This thing can cruise, it can merge, it has no problem doing so. And that's really what I like about the new 4-cylinder, is it makes good power at low RPMs.
Right.
Everyone always argues the 3.6 makes more power. Maybe it makes a little bit more, but you also have to max out at like 6,500 RPM to make that power in the 3.6.
But now that if you want a 3.6, you have to get a manual.
Yep.
For the 2025.
On the Wrangler,
so,
yeah.
No matter what, you're going to be getting a 2.0
with the automatic.
With the automatic
for right now, yeah.
So
yeah, we're going 65. I mentioned to my dad while we drove it. I drove him in the Jeep the other day. Look at how smooth this is. I could drive cross country in this Jeep right now.
Yeah.
And it's quiet.
Yeah, no, it's surprisingly quiet. I don't know if these reinforcements here or whatever was, if that is
not a lot of wind noise. I mean, obviously it's picking it up here, but for a soft top Jeep that you used to be used to back in the 80s, where it's like and loud and the buffeting.
Yeah.
Not bad. We don't have the radio on either. We have nothing on. No radio, no AC, no heat. So that those ambient noises kind of drown out some of those sounds.
Yeah.
Nothing. We're going about 70 and we're cruising at, it was like averaging out like current MPG, 54 miles a gallon. Like depending on where we're at, it gets crazy high MPGs. So we'll get off the exit here. We're going to take a left and then we're going to cruise back on the highway and head back to the shop. But we haven't even put one tank of gas in it. We've driven it 212 miles and our range still says 167. So quick math, 379 miles out of a tank, 380 out of a tank, almost 400 miles. Either way though, guys, we're going to merge back onto the highway, and I think most of the review's kind of over at this point. You know, we've given a good perspective of this. If you guys have a 2025 local to you, or you're looking to pick one up, definitely reach out through our dealership affiliate program. They can get you a great deal on a 2025, but maybe just go test drive one, or a 24. The 24 is very similar when it comes to the inside, but just test drive one. You know, maybe find one on Turo. There's a lot on Turo that you can rent for the weekend.
Yeah.
Drive it for a weekend, see how you like it. But this section, let's get into it. So for our fans and our followers that are following the build, what are we going to do to the suspension? How is this going to follow into the Willys MB process of this Jeep? Boy, let me tell you, I took a deep dive in Willys for GPW and World War II history. Went to our local Army Navy store and really did a lot of digging. But the ride quality of this. So that's one thing that the Willys MB and the Ford GPW, the World War II Jeeps, they weren't very tall. They were stock ride height. They were small. They were easy to get in and out of. So troops could get in and out. They could load stuff. And I don't think we're going to lift this at all. I gotta be honest, I do not think we are gonna put a suspension lift kit on this. I think we want to keep it low to the ground, easy to get in and out of, and then modify everything else so it can squeeze 35s on there, but articulate with them well.
Yeah.
So be able to flex it out, be able to articulate, but then be at a stock ride height. So me, you, our moms, our dads, everyone can hop in and out of it. Right, just jump in, right? No top, no doors. Hey, like I miss climb through the back of the Jeep and get in. So I actually might put bumperettes on the back. Remember on the YJs, they had the little hoops that came out of the bumper? That's how I used to always step onto those to get in. I might put some on here so we can jump right into the back seat. But suspension and the undercarriage, I think we're going to keep it basically stock. Now, basically stock, when I say that, I know I've said that too many times. Let's keep this one stock and then insert the footage of mine. I basically, my goal with this, undercarriage of this, is to make it be able to handle 40s, but only have like 34s on it. So I want the undercarriage to be so robust and the driveline and the suspension and steering to be so robust that it could take a much heavier tire wheel, and we don't put that on. So it's super durable, super robust underneath there. And when I talk about that, we're talking full 2.5 ton steering up front, a Terraflex steering stabilizer to really stiffen that up, full control arms and skid plates underneath. So we're going to do some Clayton control arms, but no lift. So we have the Clayton arms for full adjustability, full bushings and durability, but no lift kit with it. I want the underside of this to be built like a brick SHIT house, like really robust, really strong, but then only go with like a 34 by 10.5 tire. So more narrow than yours, 10.5 inches, so it's not very wide, and then a little bit less height. So that tire is almost like what's like a stock Extreme Recon tire. Everything under it could hold a 40, but we're only putting that on it. But drop a comment down below, because we do have some ideas with the front and rear bumpers. We've had a lot of things going through our head, but we're trying to keep it more original. And you guys know original, that means C-channel front and rear bumpers with the OG markings, everything on that. So I want to hear, and Ryan wants to hear, build ideas that you have for this that would help incorporate and what you guys want to see, because obviously we could go right to the catalog and just order everything from there. But I want to throw our own flair to it. I want to merge that new school and the old school Jeeper and start fabbing and start custom making things, but not go too crazy that you couldn't do it in your shop or at your house, or a local metal shop couldn't do it for you. So we're excited for that. I think that's a big move for this build, and man, we're just ready to get started. I was just looking up all the decals, everything else for it, and it's going to be some exciting stuff.
Well, tell them about the Instagram post you made, because I thought that was a really cool idea you said.
If you guys have World War II veteran friends, neighbors, relatives, please submit photos, submit the info, because we would love to honor them in this build. We've got a few already. We've got photos of grandparents, of dad in World War II in front of their Jeeps, their planes, their units. How can we incorporate those logos into the build? Because there's so much cool plain art, logos, all that fun stuff. We have a great graphics guy, JH Designs, Jordan Hoke. He's right in town. He's going to pull all that stuff.
Yeah.
And be able to give like a little homage to your family, to your friend, to your relative on this Jeep. That's what we want to do. We want to give back, to remember them, to not forget, and then to incorporate them into such a subtle and nice way into this build. That's what we're looking to do. And I hope you guys at home dig up those photos, grab that photo album and talk to them if they're still around. And if they're not, let us relive their story through this channel.
Yeah.
That's what we want to do. So until next time, Ryan's next to me but on the camera, and I'm in front of you with him on the camera.
And there's a camera out there.
And there's also a GoPro out there on the road. And we want you to get out there and earn yours.